Hi, my name is Gustav,
And my name is Kristian.
and we are co-creative directors on the Scarlet Republics, the first game by Audacity Interactive. And we will be taking you on a video gameplay walkthrough of this current publisher-developer build. Kristian,
Yes.
what part of the game are we looking at right now?
So we skipped a bit into the build and didn't play through the prologue scene. And right now we're in the first chapter of the game, where Valeria and Remo, the two protagonists, have just returned to the homeland on their vengeance quest with all their mercenaries.
And you say vengeance quest. What are the cornerstones of the story we're trying to tell in the Scarlet Republics?
So it is a story about vengeance. You're looking for the 7 conspirators, who you will track down across the 7 city-states of Corsano throughout the game's 7 chapters. I did say 7 quite a bit there, didn't I?
So what is the flavor and feel of the game?
So we have positioned the game in the grimdark subgenre of fantasy, which is it's satirical, it's dark, it's mature. Characters feel more grounded, more realistic, and you don't see as many dragons and fireballs as you do in more epic fantasy. But what you do get is a story that is set in another world, but has the feeling that the characters there are real and aren't these princes and princesses and superheroes.
Right, I think one of the things I always thought about when we were writing the story was that we wanted something with scheming and politics and gray characters that could go both ways, not this epic fight between good and evil, but a good and evil that the player helped decide to define, right?
Sure, I think the genre choices we made in terms of the fantasy story match really well with the choice system.
And now you say choice system.
Yes.
So are choices a major part of the game? A bit of a leading question there.
And you know the answer. Okay, yes, they are. So we always knew we wanted branching narratives, and we've tried to implement choices in new and exciting ways, where it's both about what factions do you ally with, the fate of individual characters, but also to have choices be a part of the tactical gameplay, to apply them on the battlefield, so that your narrative choices changes the story, but also changes your tactical options and how you play the game, how you try to win the game.
So player agency was a really big focus for us in general. We wanted players to feel like that the story that they're told is unique to their playthrough.
Yes.
So there are many branching paths. There are many different ways to interact with all the characters that have direct influence on the way the game presents the story you're told,
Sure,
right?
the story, but also the squad. I think squads are a hugely important part of any character-driven strategy RPG, and having a game where both the choices that you make in terms of narrative, but also in terms of customization, really can make your squad your own and turn out in totally different directions across playthroughs. I think that was one of the major ambitions behind the game.
And so could you just expand a bit on the art style? Because it looks a bit different than many of the art styles that at least I'm used to. So what is the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so the main inspiration is the Renaissance period, specifically the Italian Renaissance. So we are hugely inspired by Leonardo da Vinci's sketches and classical Renaissance art and fashion in general, and we've tried to go for a bit of that Italian city-state flavor all across the art style and the narrative, and even in the sound we try to keep that Latin vibe with tango and flamenco being an inspiration for the soundtrack of the game.
And we've moved on now. So now
Yes.
we're no longer at the dialogue scenes where the story is told and many of the gameplay choices are made. But as far as I see, you just also made a choice here, and we've now moved on to the battle map where you actually command your troops. So
Yeah.
could you tell me a bit about the composition here? How does this play out?
Sure. I should probably start by mentioning that in terms of a lot of the 2D, that's kind of close to where we want to end up, but a lot of the 3D is placeholder. I mean, some, for example, if you look at this bridge, really showcases where we want the art style. You can see the sketchy strokes, the kind of crosshatch thing we've going on that we want to achieve with most of the art there. But a lot of it is placeholder still. Especially if you're talking about the character models. But yes, I just wanted to get that off my chest.
That's a fair point.
What were you asking?
I was mainly asking. So how does the strategic or the tactical part of the game play out? So what are the main cornerstones of this gameplay?
Yes.
So now you moved the character.
I did.
A bit up.
I moved her.
And what is this character's role?
Okay, so combat in the Scarlet Republic is turn-based. It's based on initiative. As you can see up here,
This shows the order of characters.
When the characters move, and each character can move once and attack once every turn. And the character we have right here is Carmen, who is a marksman, and the marksman class uses bows and arrows. As a ranged character that tries to utilize her bow and her stealth to sneak behind enemy lines and do some damage. So right now I'm gonna ready her up. You can see here she has a normal ranged attack, and I could use that to shoot this guy, but I kind of want to go defensive here because it's a long battle, and I don't want to take too much damage before I get on. So I'll just try to.
But I see no more enemies further on in the map.
Yes, that's because they're hiding. You have to discover them.
Okay.
Yes.
And
so I'm just gonna knock an arrow for now.
And you just pulled up a stat panel as well. Could you after this short cutscene just walk us a bit through how the character stats have been conceptualized?
Sure. Yeah. So there's a lot of inspiration there from Japanese RPGs and general tabletop RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, and etc. We don't have a ton of customization in terms of equipment. Where I think the customization really lies is in the skill system, is in how the characters play out individually and how you utilize the classes together. But we do have these ones down here, which are your attributes, which together with your equipment make up your combat stats. So that's attack, defense, accuracy, evasion.
Right. So the attributes are like the foundation of each character's makeup, but the combat stats are what you actually use when trying to figure out whether a character will beat another character. Is that correctly understood?
That is correctly understood.
Yeah. And what is this character that we're looking
at? This character is Raphaela. She's a prodigy. So the prodigy is one of the two mages in the game, and she can use what's called shift magic to sort of transform herself in ways that make her stronger in some ways and weaker in other ways. So in the beginning of the game, she has a hawk shift and a sparrow shift. And the hawk shift makes her stronger so that she can punch harder, but means that she can move less and is worse at evading foes. So that's kind of an offensive shift. And then we have the sparrow shift, which make her quick and evasive, and it's a defensive shift, but it's also good for covering distances and taking out weak enemies.
Especially those pesky archers.
We'll see those pesky archers in just a little bit. But for now, I'm not going to do anything with her.
And now you said that she's one of the mages and she has some shift magic.
Yes.
I believe there's one other thing that Raphaela can do that is not completely useless.
There's one other thing Raphaela can do that is not completely useless. She can do siphon magic. And siphon magic makes her stronger whenever she kills a foe. So I really want to try to get the last blow with her as much as possible.
And how many people can she siphon from?
3.
Okay, so per map?
Yeah. So
and are there skills that change
yes,
there
are.
That?
One would almost think that you helped design this game and know the answers to all these questions already. All right. So I've now put out some traps with our sapper, Gaspar. He's like a technological soldier, and he can do grenades and traps and other nice things with items.
Yeah, so kind of a utility character in your
Definitely
in your
kind
squad.
of a utility character. All right, let's.
And there's 2 other roles there were a bunch of roles that we haven't discussed.
Boom! Walked into the trap.
And lost a turn.
Lost a turn. You didn't see that coming.
You most definitely did not.
All right. So this one right here, I could probably almost kill with Carmen now, but I want to do that with Raphaela to get the siphoning. So I'm just gonna shoot at this brute here because it's gonna take it a bit to take him out. Okay, let's see if I know how to play the game.
So now you're hawk shifting.
I'm hawk shifting to make her stronger,
okay.
To make sure she can actually kill. Actually, look here.
And she can't.
She can't. That's too bad. But she did do a lot of damage there.
And I see a number 1 suddenly has appeared on the screen. What does that mean?
Well, that means that these guys are now dueling, and they're engaging each other. And when they do that, it means that the weapon of the character applies a dueling bonus to the enemy. So, for example, right now, Rafaela is engaged by a sword, which is a short weapon, and that means that her evasion is lower. It makes it easier to sort of get in behind her guard and hit her. So every weapon has a dueling bonus, and they're really important to positioning and making sure that you utilize the characters in the correct way.
And I think this is one of the things where the engagement system, as it is right now, works really well mechanically. But it's one of the things where we want to make it more flashy and make animations and stuff like that, change stances when characters are engaged. So that is one of the parts of the game where the current build is less evolved than we really want it to be at the final stages, which isn't strange. But just mentioning that right now, that mechanically working with engagement, but still lacking a bit of style that we want to try to infuse in it.
So you can see here, Remo is engaged by a hammer, which means that his defense is lowered, and the old broody brute here is engaged by Remo's sword, so his evasion is lowered just as well. Alright, so I'm going to show off something with the engagement system now. This is Brunella. She's a guardian. The guardian class is kind of your tank, but it's also doing a lot of inspirational stuff and working a lot with positioning in the game. You can do a reaction stance so that people have a hard time running by you. And right now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to try and taunt this guy here. So that was successful. So that means that he will... Oh, look there! So what happened was that he tried to attack Brunella, but because he was engaged, he suffered an opportunity attack. So that's one of the reasons why the engagement system is so powerful.
And when you taunted him, I saw a bar go down. Could you tell me what happened there?
Oh yes, that was the stability bar. So stability is a secondary resource next to health. You can sort of see it down here in the purple area on the character portrait. It's also the purple bar beneath the health bar. And stability is magical defense. So a lot of the effects and spells in the game only work on enemies with unstable patterns. And now I say pattern because it's related to the magic system of the world, which is called pattern magic, but I don't really want to go into that because it's a very long talk. But it's safe to say that if you want to poison enemies, if you want to weaken them, if you want to taunt them, you have to get rid of their stability first.
Right. So it works as Kristian said. It's like a magical defense, a sort of magical armor, if you will. That it can be affected both by melee weapons from some of the mages that hold a mage blade, like Rafaela and Jacobo, but also by using a bunch of different skills.
Sure. And now I actually got to do the final kill with Rafaela. So you can see here I'm now siphoning, and that means my attack has gone up and my accuracy has gone up, and actually my evasion has gone up as well, but it's down because of the hawk shift.
Right.
Yeah.
And So now you mentioned that a bunch of the customization in the game.
Ooh. Look at the villains. They're conversing.
Okay. So this is one of the short battlefield cutscenes trying to help us in this very, very, very short build flesh out a bit of the story and a bit of the characters, because that is one of the difficulties with story and narrative-driven games only having about an hour's gameplay in the build. But we really hope you guys can see what we're going for here.
Sure, I hope so as well. I mean, two of the main things that the Scarlet Republics is very ambitious in is choice-based narrative and customization, and both of these two things just doesn't really start to get magical before you're like 10 hours into the game, and obviously
5 hours into the game maybe, but maybe. you have to play a bit, because
I like long games.
Yeah,
sorry.
That's the way it's supposed to be. That's also what we're trying to design. But you said that what are you doing now? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I just saw you activate, and she changed position.
She did. She's and also the animations while they're placeholder. This is a beautiful one. Maybe not, but anyway, she's now in stealth, so that means I can safely try to discover enemies. Oh, there we have some. I kind of knew that. But
And what happens if the enemies see you and you don't pre-discover them?
They enter the initiative, and that could be pretty bad.
So they can enter initiative practically anywhere in the round, right?
They can.
So that means if Brunella...
It's based on their stats.
So that means that Brunella, if she's last in initiative, if you charge her up and suddenly discover a group of enemies, they actually enter initiative in that round, right? And get to attack her?
Yes.
Yeah, so you have to be a bit careful with your planning and the way you move forward. Positioning is a huge part of the game, and using the classes to support each other in the best possible way is definitely something that you have to keep thinking about. But you said one thing earlier. You said that customization in the game was less about equipment. Obviously, there is a bunch of equipment customization,
course,
mainly in weapon and armor and so on. But you said that skills are a heavy part of the customization in the game. Could you show us potentially a skill panel or give us an overview of how the skills are going to work in the game?
So skills are class based. So there are 2 skill trees per class. That means that, for example, if you take the marksman, she can specialize as a scout and use stealth, or she can specialize as a trick shot to have better bow skills, basically. And you can mix that any way you want. So if you really like the level 10 scout skill, you're free to take that, even though you are a very committed trick shot, which means that you can customize a lot there. There are also going to be random skills for each character, so that means that you, from playthrough to playthrough, get different opportunities with the characters. And finally, personal skills. So for example, Carmen's not the only marksman of the game, and to put her apart from the other marksmen, she has her own personal skills. Yeah.
Okay, so in this way you can
Don't trigger everyone now.
You can mix and match skills throughout the whole game in a way that suits your play style the best.
Yeah.
But that's obviously not the only thing that has an effect, because not every character can fulfill every role, and characters level up differently. And what is an RPG without leveling up? So how does the leveling up in the Scarlet Republics work?
Let's see if I can get a level.
I'm sure you can, but if you could tell us just a bit what happened there. I'm sorry. You did.
I commanded him again.
You commanded him again.
Did I tell you about commanding?
You did not tell me about
command. I didn't tell you about commanding. So command is the ability of the commander, Remo right now, which is the main character that you choose to play as, and he can give his turn to allied units to sort of work around the initiative system and allow for different tactical options.
That's interesting.
But I was talking about leveling up.
You were talking about leveling up, but I just have one question about the command. It does, so would that potentially be one of the skill trees that your commander could move down?
It is. He has the champion skill tree, which makes him better at inspiring his allies, so that he doesn't only command, but he can do all sorts of things like giving everybody a boost to defense or giving everybody bonuses to movement, etc.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So back to leveling up.
Let's see if we've timed it correctly. Anybody gonna level up? Yeah, there we go.
That's beautiful.
All right, so let's pause a bit here. So what happened now was that Carmen got a level, and her attributes, some of them increased. And this is actually random. It's not completely random. It's controlled randomness, so each character has specific growth rates that allows them to gain stats on level up. But this means that Carmen won't necessarily turn out the same way in each playthrough. So actually this is a fairly good growth for Carmen. Agility is very important for the marksman. Proficiency is good for basically everyone. And stamina means that she has more defense and can be a bit more sustainable if she gets discovered doing all her scouting.
And obviously, we did not invent random growths.
We didn't. They've been a mainstay in Japanese RPGs for a long time.
Right, and especially one of the series that inspired us a lot. I think our game is very much removed from the original Fire Emblem inspiration, but especially the random growths and the feeling of these characters growing organic and having sort of a life of their own outside of the player's control, and creating a different tactical challenge and opportunity, because you have to play around and play with the way the characters evolve organically, was something that we really love, and something we think gives gives a different kind of flavor and personalities to the characters that doesn't happen when you just click a increase strength button. It also gives some replayability, right?
I think together with the branching stories, so that you can get the narratives different from playthrough to playthrough, it was very important that the characters also grow organically, have a life of their own, are different characters every time you play, and the skill system is part of that. As I mentioned, some of the skills are random. You can experiment a lot in what skill setups you try on different characters, but the other huge part is this very simple mechanic that just lets them grow organically. It means that the characters can surprise you. It gives you like a closer relation to them, in my opinion, that you can be like, oh yeah, I love you, Remo. You just grew exactly how I wanted you to. Or even sometimes, come on, Leonardo, you can get better growth than that.
And it also, I think, makes every level up exciting, because you never know exactly what's going to happen. You have hopes, you have dreams, and you have plans with these characters from the beginning. Like when you begin seeing someone grow in a certain direction, that can excite you. But it also it can also sometimes surprise you, that you end up with a character that you thought was going to be a certain way, but suddenly ends up completely different, allowing you to do things that you never thought you had been able to do with that character or class, right? Which is one of the reasons I think we really love that system. So one of the main inspirations for the way that we built the Scarlet Republics in general, and the way we want to take the game forward, is to do this mix of what we call best practice approach from JRPGs, Japanese tactical RPGs in general, and Western games of the same genre. We think that mixing some of the things that Divinity has done, Baldur's Gate has done, with things like Fire Emblem and XCOM, and taking the best inspirations from each, while obviously adding our own flair, flavor, art style, and especially story and narrative drive, because I think that's what one of the ways that the Scarlet Republics really stands apart, is the unique approach that will make the game really, really interesting for players, for genre players all around the world.